This is the Feelworld F5 ProX 5.5-inch 4K on-camera touchscreen monitor. This monitor is great for filmmaking, studio setups, or YouTube work thanks to its 1600 nit brightness screen. This is a great match for the Lumix S9, GH6 or 7, or the S5 Mark II range of cameras. Let's get into it. Welcome back, folks. My name's Shane. In today's video, we're checking out the Feelworld F5 ProX on-camera monitor. This video will not only be a review covering the pros and cons of the F5 ProX, but it will also act as a tutorial to help you understand how it works if you've just purchased one. Let's talk price. So at the time of filming, the F5 ProX has a price of $179 US. The build quality overall is excellent for a mostly plastic unit. One of the things I love about this unit is its visibility and weight. So you get a very visible screen while not weighing you down for run and gun filmmaking or production setups. Just a quick disclaimer before we get going. A massive thanks to Feelworld for sending this out for the review and tutorial guide. I really appreciate it. If you do find it helpful, leave a thumbs up, subscribe for more videos, and you'll be notified anytime I upload something new. Now, if you want to skip to a particular section of this video, check the timestamps in the description box below. Let's get into it. Let's cover a few of the headline features that I think matter most. The Feelworld F5 ProX has a 5.5-inch 1600 nit IPS touchscreen display. This is bright enough to have it work outside in most shooting situations. There's also a hood that you can attach for helping in tricky top-down lighting situations. The native resolution of this screen is 16:9, but it will also work with DCI 4K without an issue. This monitor also has a 1000:1 contrast rating, which means the darkest part of the image are 1000 times darker than the brightest parts. While the F5 ProX says 4K on the front of the box, this is the pass-through signal. Basically, this is a full HD or 1080p monitor, but it does accept a 4K signal in, but the screen itself is only 1080p. If you're sending a signal in and then out to a different monitor or encoder, you'll get a 4K 30p maximum signal. And this is really handy if you plan on doing any live streaming with a switcher that can support 4K. The F5 ProX fully supports resolutions from 4K UHD at 2425 and 30p, and HD up to 60 frames per second. Interestingly, this also supports signals as low as 480p, so if you've got an older camera or device with a lower resolution, it will work with this monitor. The viewing angles on this are solid overall, and the screen's easy enough to see when viewed from non-ideal viewing angles, either from the top, bottom, or from the sides. Let's quickly cover what we get in the box. So we obviously get the monitor, the shade hood that I showed you before, a micro HDMI cable, the tilt arm or bracket that holds the monitor. There's also a USB-A to USB-C adapter. This is used to upload your own LUT to the monitor using a USB stick. We get an Allen key tool for help just locking things into place if need be, and a user manual. The mounting bracket included works for both horizontal or vertical shooting thanks to the 1/4-20 mounting points on either side of the screen. While I usually prefer the simplicity of a cold shoe monitor mount, this bracket allows for up to 360-degree rotation of the screen once it's attached. Let me show you all the different buttons, inputs, and outputs on this unit. So we get 3 different FN keys over here, and these are function buttons that you can fully customize. There's also a touch button over here which either enables or disables the touchscreen functionality. On the opposite side of the 1/4-20 screw point over here, we have our menu button, and this obviously brings up the menu. You don't need to use this to access the menu, but there's a hardware key there if you choose to use it. There's an up-down arrow here which helps you navigate the menu, and an exit button right on the end. Now this exit button is also your power. So if you just hold it down for a couple of seconds, you can power the monitor on or off, which is great. You can see just how bright the screen is here in the studio. The front left side of the monitor has the HDMI input and output ports along with a 12-volt DC input. Under the unit here, there's a headphone output jack for monitoring audio, a USB-C port for powering the unit indefinitely, and an 8.4-volt DC output for powering external devices. The DC output is also powerful enough to power a dummy battery in a lot of mirrorless cameras, which is wild. I really can appreciate the fact that this can be controlled either via the touchscreen functionality or via dedicated hardware keys. There's also 3D LUT support with this unit, so if you're shooting with a custom LUT, you can preview it on screen at the time of filming. This is especially useful if your camera doesn't have a real-time LUT option. There's also a bunch of professional filmmaker and monitoring tools, including Waveform, Vectorscope, Histogram, peaking filter, Anamorphic support, false colors, exposure tools, punch-in zoom, image flip, embedded audio, framing markers, and a whole lot more. And we'll cover more of this in just a moment. Let's cover the power options and what is and isn't included. Sadly, there's no included NPF style battery in the box. So if you've been doing any type of filmmaking, odds are you already have one of these, but it's worth mentioning. NPF batteries are inexpensive and they come in a range of different sizes and prices, and I'll link down to my recommendation down below. Another killer feature is the Sony F970 external install, which allows you to mount and power other accessories like wireless packs or LED lights, for example. Now, I don't have any accessories to mount directly on this right now, but I'll show you some examples of this on screen. The F6 ProX will work on almost any USB-C charger without the battery installed, which is a great choice for anyone working in a studio environment or live switching setup. I've also tested this on my cheapest iPhone charger and it worked, so this is great. It means you don't need to go out and buy a more expensive USB power delivery option. Lastly, there's language support for up to 11 languages, as you can see on screen. This is a really great inclusion. Let me show you how this works. So we've got some really cool touch gestures. If we swipe up or down over here, we can adjust the brightness of the screen, which is awesome. Now on this side, but just by swiping up and down, we can control the level of the volume if you're using the headphone output. To open the menu up, all you need to do is double tap anywhere on screen and it will bring up 5 different options on the left: assist, marker, image, user option, and system. We're going to take a quick look at the assist tools to begin with. There's an all waves option here. You can just simply turn things on and on by toggling the switches. If you want to get out nice and fast, you can just use the exit key on the top here. It will take you back to the main view, which is really cool. Now, of course, you can just use the menu button here if you prefer to use that with the up and down arrow keys, but I much prefer the ability to touch the screen. It's just so much faster getting into different options. Here's the waveform on its own here as well, and you can change the mode. If you want to change it into different modes here, you can see the waveform readout changing on this side over here. We also get the ability to change the transparency here as well. So as you can see, at 75%, it's the most transparent. At 25, it's much more visible, so you can pick which works best for you. You can also change the position of this just by moving around these 2 sliders. I really like this. It's just nice and simple to operate. I'm actually on the side of the monitor here, so if you see me fumbling around, it may happen throughout the video, but just know these sliders work really well. Vectorscope is a handy tool for monitoring skin tones. If you want to turn that on, you can, and there it is over there. I'm going to leave that one off. We've got a histogram. If you prefer to use the old school histograms, you can. And here's how it looks. And if you just want the basic one that you see on a lot of Sony cameras, set it to Y. One of my favorite tools on here is Focus Assist. It's nice and easy to see what's going on. So we can set it to red here. And as you can see, the things that are lit up in red is what's actually in focus. And this is great. It will work with autofocus on your camera as well, which is great. So if I just tap one area box mode, you can see that the Japanese statue thing is now in focus. We can change this to green. Can also change it to blue, which is great. So depending on your scene, you might prefer one color over the other. If you want this to be the most intense, you can set it to 10, or of course you can have it set to 1 or anywhere in between. If you're having trouble monitoring the scene for whatever reason, or if you want false colors on, you can simply turn it on via this menu at the bottom. From the marker tool on the left, we can set up grid lines here as well. So if you want grids on, if you're going to be working in the rule of thirds, you've got all of those options. You can also set all of these different modes here as well, which is great, along with the color of the grid. So if you want to change the grid to green, you can, and it's just nice and straightforward. I'll go ahead and turn that off for now. We've got safe frames here as well. So if you want to make sure you're not going to be cutting off anything in post, we can set up a safety frame here. This is good for just sort of like perfect framing, basically. If you want to set it up slightly wider, you can set it up to 90% as well. But yeah, just a really handy tool, depending also on what cameras you're working with. Center marker, I've already got on. You can see the red plus sign in the middle, but we can of course turn this green as well, which is great. I love the center marker. It's something that I use all of the time, and it was the first thing that I turned on when I powered up this monitor. Let's talk about aspect ratio markers. Now, I'm in open gate on my camera. This monitor can accept that signal, which is fantastic, although it is downsampling it back to 1080p. But the great news is if we go into the marker option here and then go into ratio markers, we can get a ratio marker set up for a 9:16 image, which is all the way down here. So if you plan on shooting vertical video, look at that, we've got our 9:16 framing marker. Now, while I am in open gate over here, just know if I'm going to select, say, 16:9 now, it's going to look a little bit funny. So consider this to be functional with OpenGate, but not necessarily perfect with it, because I can't adjust the size of this particular framing marker. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Sliding this around doesn't actually change the 16:9 image. You can see that the whole screen is 16:9, which is lit up in red. I can't then just shrink it down. So just food for thought there. It's definitely worth mentioning. For those who like to shoot anamorphic, we can go into the image option here and tap on anamorphic. And as you can see, we've got a few different de-squeeze options available, which is fantastic. So if you are an anamorphic filmmaker, this will definitely work. If you plan on using the screen in a different orientation, whether that's facing forward, which would normally just showcase it upside down, or if you plan on shooting vertically, we have options to flip the screen, which I really like. Now, when it comes to zooming, we do have actual zoom options available here. So we can turn this on and it will punch right in for us. But the cool thing is, being that this is a touchscreen, you can also pinch to zoom like you would on an iPhone or whatever. So this is great. It allows full touch functionality and just a very easy way of working. All right, let's take a look at the LUT loader over here. So as you can see, we've got 4 to choose from to start with: S-Log2, S-Log3, Log-C, and V-Log if you're shooting with Panasonic, so that's cool. As I mentioned earlier, you can install your own LUT. You just need to use a USB stick with the dongle that's provided in the box and upload it from there. This monitor does support HDR, so if you want to turn that on, you can do it from this particular menu option, and there's 3 options to choose from: HLG 1, 2, and 3. I love the fact we've got a display adjustment here. It will adjust everything from the saturation, contrast, brightness, and backlight. The backlight's kind of like the global brightness. The brightness is the highlights. The contrast will increase or decrease the shadows and highlights at the same time, so it's kind of like pulling the image apart from the darkest part and the brightest part, if that makes sense. And then we've got our saturation over here, which is how much color is in the scene. This is really handy. And we've got our tint, so if you want to change the tint, you can do that as well. So let's say you're shooting in RAW and you just want to set a color temperature preview, you can do that as well. So you can set it to 5600 Kelvin. You can see that the scene changed. 6500, 9300, which is, you know, as sort of like as clinical blue as it goes. And of course, you can fully customize this via the user option. At the start of the video, I mentioned that there's 3 custom function buttons that you can fully customize. So right now, F1 is set to all waves. So if I get out of this and I hit F1 on the top of the unit, it's going to bring up all waves. Now, I don't really like this view that much, so I want to change this, and I'll show you how to do it so you can fully customize all of them for you. So if we go to user option here, go over to shortcut key, we can change F1 to any of these, which is awesome. So what I'm going to do is change this to focus assist. I'm going to turn that one on. So this is great. It means now when I get out of this, I can use F1 to turn on and off focus peaking, which is great. It's on pretty subtly at the moment, but yeah, I can ramp that up within the monitor, and then I can just turn it on nice and fast. You can of course do the same thing for F2 and F3, so set it up in the way that works best for your shooting scenario. Another huge benefit to this monitor is we get 11 different languages. So if you go to system into language, you can see all of the different ones currently on screen. From the on-screen display option over here, we can select how long the on-screen display information stays. So as you can see at 15 seconds, it doesn't last very long, although I hit record a little bit after I actually set that. So let's go back in here and set it to 45 seconds. Now, if you want to escape all of this as well, you can just simply double tap the screen. Basically, it will take you back and close all the menus. We can mute the volume if we don't want it whatsoever coming through, which is cool. There's a reset button here, which is like your factory reset. And if you want to update the firmware, this is the option that you select on screen. Let's wrap this up. I'm going to give you my final thoughts on the Feelworld F5 ProX on-camera monitor. So there's a lot to like about this. I think functionality is one of the best things about it. Double tap the screen, brings up the menu. You can turn things on and off nice and fast. You can customize the FN keys on the device, which is always a good thing. I love the fact you can also power external accessories if you've got compatible devices with what you saw on the side over here. So you just peel the sticker off and it allows you to sort of clip in LED lights or wireless packs or any other number of accessories that utilize that particular connection. It's something that I've not used before, so that's really cool. While I'm not the biggest fan of these L-shaped brackets here for the monitor, it really does allow you to get almost any angle, but it's just all a little bit too big for me personally. I would probably replace this with like a small rig solution just to keep it nice and compact to the camera. When it comes to the HDMI cable included, it is micro to full-size HDMI. There's no full-size to full-size. So if you need one of those, you'll have to buy one of those separately. And you'll also need to buy a battery. And again, I've been using this Viltrox one, which came with my Viltrox monitor. A lot of these monitors now aren't coming with MPF batteries. You can just pick them up on eBay or Amazon. And again, I'll link down to the one I recommend down in the description box. But you can get so many different batteries at so many different prices and sizes and all that kind of thing. I've got some that are about this big that will last all day. But again, I prefer smaller and lighter batteries to keep the overall size and weight down. If you plan on using this in the studio with something like an A10 Mini and you're going to let it run for hours, you can of course power this without the battery attached just by using a charger. I really like this and it worked with my cheap little phone charger down on the floor over here. So you don't need to go ahead and buy one of those more expensive USB power delivery options. I only have a few critiques with this. While the viewing angles are solid indoors, there is quite a bit of glare on the screen at about 45 degrees to any sort of light hitting the screen. So just keep that in mind. And when I'm wearing my polarized sunglasses, it becomes a lot harder to see, but the brightness level on this is fantastic. And if you're seated behind it and you're using the little hood like this, you won't have any problem seeing it outdoors. At least in my tests, it's worked really well. At the end of the day, for the price, I can highly recommend this, and I would have no hesitations using this for any of my projects, either in a multi-camera setup when I'm using an A10 Mini or out in the field. If you want to check this out, I'll link it down below. Thanks again for watching. My name's Shane. I will catch you on the next one. See ya.